Angel's Journey. I'm Shakira. All right, so I figured no attempting morning session. Instead, I'm reviewing. I'm reviewing the trades for this week. So from the 17th, when I reset my account, and it's not gonna get reset again because it only got reset because I fat fingered like 15 or 20 contracts, something stupid. It just blew it when I was typing in one window, thinking I was typing in another, and anyways, that was a whole thing. It's very disappointing. Anyway, so I've been documenting every trade, and it was just a written thing. So Monday started at 20,000. Um, in the afternoon session, got in 250, and then the 18th lost, stopped out 150, then stopped out again, and then on the 19th, it's just basically getting stopped out trying to go long. Now, I forgot something very important, and let's take a look because I had said to myself, it looks like Tuesday is making the high of the week, right? In which case, from the weekly profiles, I'm gonna get tiny. From the weekly profiles, that would basically suggest that the rest of the week will be bearish if I'm looking at it correctly. So let's and this is getting a little busy. I don't like that it's getting so busy. So let's take a look at it on the backtesting window. And let's take that off for now. Let's go to the daily, right? So look at this insanity. Okay. So Monday made a high and a low. Tuesday made the high of the week, right? And so far we've been respecting that. We took out the low and we've been continuing to drop. So that's the general expectation for that weekly trend. And let me grab my handy dandy folder with the weekly trends in them and take a closer look at it. So the expectation is if it's a Tuesday high of the week, then the rest of the week could be bearish. Sorry, roll backwards to Tuesday. So it's like a classic Tuesday high of the week. And then, so we're on Thursday. And so we're on Thursday. So we might potentially make the low this week and then maybe rally a little bit on Friday. So let's back out. So the monthly candle, man, that's tiny. It's a tiny green candle. The weekly this week is forming is a wet red week, and we still haven't come up to take these out. And the daily candle today started off very red. Now, what I want to do is I want to take a look at what we've been reaching for, right? So far it's red candle, and this green candle we haven't managed to take it out. We haven't managed to take the low out of it, right? So, oh wow, look at that. We are at mean threshold right now for this upward green candle. So, in terms of PD arrays on the daily, let's go back to the weekly. All right, so in terms of PD arrays on the weekly, we were at this rejection block right here on the weekly. So we got rejected very, very soundly. We've come in, we've tried. So there's a weekly rejection block up there that we've dug into a little bit. And we're slowly making our way down into this one. I don't know if that's going to be the case. We've got what is essentially the last down candle before this rise, which could be considered a little bit of a mini bullish order block, but we haven't taken out these highs yet, so it's just the last down candle. We do have a tiny bit of a fair value gap in here, and things to work into on the weekly is there's an actual liquidity void all the way up here, and a bit of a volume imbalance, right? So we've actually just been consolidating this week. So from this high, that low, just been consolidating. Anyway, so let's take a look at yesterday's price action, right? And these types of choppy days are what really mess us up. So we came in to this last green candle, so we had a bearish order block right here that they've traded into. We've sort of been hanging out inside of, right? And this bigger fair value gap with this liquidity void that's been filled in already. So this fair value gap, we've just kind of been hanging out inside of it. So all right, so sorry, let's go back to the weekly. So first things first, let's just note this rejection block right here. Do I have a thing for rejection? Yeah, okay. Let's note that rejection block. Whoops, I don't need that. Okay, so there's a rejection block up there, and got this fair value but gap down here to play with. What I'm going to do though, I'm going to go into a 4 hour. So the 4 hour is so this is this weirdness that was happening yesterday on the 19th. Like we traded down to this bullish order block. Let's note that. So we're at a bullish order block. Price rallied on the 4 hours. So I'm just note that. Do I have a thing for that? Okay. So the last red down candle before the rally and shift through. They came in, big fair value gap, and they've tapped it a couple of times. Look at that. 1, 2, rallied. Never quite made it to it. Now we're back here again. Question is, will they continue to rally? They filled in almost sort of tick. Let's see. The high of that is 41.37. 75, and the low of that is 41.38. So they went one tick over, and ICT talks about that quite a bit. It's fascinating, isn't it? Anyway, so they've hit this order block again, and this feels like another rejection block down here as well. So we have this order block, and we have a rejection block, rallied, never made it back down, and we've been rejected again. So something that I need to do a lot more of. So we have another rejection block right here. So order block, rejection block in the same place. So we'll see how this this plays out. Let's take a look at it on the 1 hour. Okay. So the daily is green. Let's see how. Let's open this up and let me adjust the time frames, right? So I want to see what the 9:30 to 10:30 looked like. Let's see. make sure I did that right. Yeah, I want to see what the 9:30 to 10:30 looked like yesterday. So that's 4. Okay, so let's, because I'm looking at the range, right? And then London, this is early in the morning. Let's take that off for the moment. Let's take that session off for the moment. Okay. And right now we're back at this order block, so that's cool. So we know we can roll up in here, relatively equal highs on the 1 hour up here if they're gonna switch out. But they took out the lows from yesterday, so we've been dropping. I mean, look at that. How is this tradable? I mean, look at this. I mean, they haven't even come back into this order block. They came back into this fair value gap. And then they dropped and they came back into this order block. That's nice. Rallied. And then they dropped, came back into this order block. Rallied into this fair value gap. And now we're here. Back into this order block and the higher time frame one. Look at it on the 15-minute. So the 2 to 4 o'clock saw a very precipitous drop, right? Very precipitous drop, and they took out these lows, and now we're at this order block and rejection block. We'll see how they behave. Let's tap this back in, and so yesterday's 9:30. Okay, so let's see. So the range, 9:30 to 10:30. So that's the range. And let me add the London kill zone because I want to see. Let's do London. That's gonna be 2 to 4. Well, 2 to 5 technically. Okay. So, did I not type that right? Just so I can track to see what it looks like. Say long. London. Okay. So this London session, wow, that is quite a big range. So the London, the midnight opening was up here. So the high was up here. They chose not to take it. And the session low is here. So I'm curious to see if they're willing to take out the low. Because right now they're just digging up into this fair value gap. Just note that. Fair value gap. And so with this being traded through, we have a low. Well, this was a low, lower, low traded through. They came back into the breaker yesterday from the 6:45. This is at 10 o'clock time frame. So I need to start focusing on the PD arrays that they're working inside of. It's very important because if I'd noted the low, lower low, and I think I did in the morning, I just didn't, this is on Wednesday. Yeah, I didn't do a very good job from an entry perspective. So let's zoom in on this section really quickly and see what that looks like. Right, and let's drop down to 5 minutes. Okay, wait, so let's do the 1 hour. So, I'm sorry, let's look at it. Okay, so on the 15-minute, where the low, lower low traded through. So that would have left us with bullish breaker right here. well, technically this whole thing, given the size of this wick, let's say that that's the the bullish breaker. Sorry, it's not the right one. I don't have a bullish breaker in here. Okay, let's create one. So we have a bullish breaker at the top of that green candle. Let's make that green. Let's make it thick. Let's save this as bullish breaker. Okay. So we have a bullish breaker right here on the 15-minute. Let's adjust that down. Okay. And so inside of that breaker, we have, which technically becomes like the shift. There's a shift here too, but let's look at it on 5 minutes. So we have a bullish breaker, and then let's also focus on where I had also said that we want to take out these relatively equal highs as a buy side liquidity right here. I mean, seriously, this is one. And then what is it? No. Shift, drag, no. There's some method for control drag. So I was on control drag. There we go. So then we also had these guys, which I was also thinking about. I mean, a lot of juiciness up here. So on the 5 minute, for aiming for that guy, let's see what they did. So once we had like a proper shift out of here, what did that leave us? There's all this choppiness, I think, that I was trying to go long in. And I got stopped out. I didn't re-enter. And what time is this? This is the 9:40. And was trying to get long in here. But let's focus on what we're trying to learn. So we have this breaker up here, and we have a nice shift, right? Low, low, low breaker. This choppiness here is pretty awful to deal with. But inside of the breaker we had this volume imbalance. So given that it had this volume imbalance, this is like the primary area. And I always wonder if this whole thing is the breaker, right? In which case, then them coming back into this order block would make sense, right? All this is in hindsight. I need to study it, right? So they have this volume imbalance. So you have to watch to see what they're doing in here. So they've tapped in. They've tapped into, and they respected the bodies. No, they didn't. So I've been trying to recognize that when you have a breaker, the top of it's good. It looks like from this scenario, you could wait for them to break out of this choppiness, gross stuff, or the general trend is, what do we have? We've got sell side taken here, and I've been remiss. Let's do this. So we have sell side taken here. Sell side taken there. They took it, and then they made a shift. Wasn't super strong though, and it didn't really give me anything. Like I would need a nice, stronger shift. And the markets are so choppy that it's hard to tell, right? And then it did make a bit of a shallow shift up and left this fair value gap. Now, knowing on the higher time frame, so if I go back to the 15-minute, and we have this breaker right here, knowing that we have this whole thing as a breaker, let's go into the 5 minute. knowing that we have all of that as a breaker, I don't know. Do I feel comfortable with this shift? Do I feel comfortable with the shift? Now my range is all of this. And my general preference would be to take out a more significant high before actually, entering. Because, this could just be them, dipping into this bearish order block. The other thing to watch is this order block and how they behave inside of it. So I need to watch how this thing forms. And let's go down, let's look at it on a 4-minute. So on this shift, fair value gap, not really much of anything down here. 3 minutes. Two minutes. So this gross chop right here. And 1 minute. So if I'm looking for a more significant shift above the breaker, and then I want to see them respect the breaker, then I would be waiting. They're definitely inside this breaker, and honestly, this is frustrating, right? They came back. The other thing I'm noticing that is like whenever there's a order block inside of the breaker, like that's where I should expect them to come back to. That's where I should expect them to come back to. But the shift here was so shallow, and they kept coming back and coming back. I mean, the day was very, very bearish, but this is, given where it is, it's a bullish move, right? So watching all of this, I wouldn't have wanted to touch it. Now, even in all of this chop, there's a potential light at the end of the tunnel, right? The top of the breaker's here. We have a decent shift this way. It leaves us a fair value gap right here at the top of the breaker. So that gives us another opportunity for potential entry. All of this is in hindsight, but that's all I have to work with as I'm testing and understanding the chop. So what time is that? Like 10:25 is when they gave us another opportunity. So when they did the break, it came back into it shallowly. This order block right here. So let's see, what would that have been? Because I would have wanted something inside of the fair value gap, right? This order block is like right at the about midpoint, so I'd take that. I want to keep about 8 ticks. Because if we're dipping back into this, then it's just more gross choppiness. And I'm looking for this fair value gap, right? I mean, this buy side to be taken. So I'll take this low, this high. So 41.71. That's one potential right there. So 37 ticks. But there's this guy. So 41.79 as a higher, for a larger move. And then we can drop another to see if we have any kind of confluence. Let's use these lows and that high. And that guy's relatively close together. It's in between. I'm gonna do one more because these are this chop is, hold on, this chop is so crazy. So let's use this slow and that high. I was looking for confluences. So some relatively close, like that one. These two are like spot on. Let's see if we get up to there. I don't know. I know we go up for a bit. And let's back up. Let's back up a little bit to where we want the entry. All right, so let's see, we see them coming down and we're consolidating here and we buy here. I'm just curious to see what kind of, and then we'll use this. So our stop is here for the moment. Yes, all in hindsight, we're just testing the theory out. So we got an entry in. Now, 20 ticks is all I'm generally looking for just to see if I can get it. With this chop, a close stop loss seems like a good plan. Okay. So once we get above this, I want to see how they behave because once they take like buy side, there's no guarantee that they'll want to continue on up, right? So I'd want to be protecting my 20 ticks probably. So they take that, come back down. Once they like bust above it, with some gusto, and they take that, I'd be looking to move my stop loss to right under here. And let's see, fair value gap holding it up. So let's see if that continues. Okay. Still haven't closed a body below this. So it might be okay. And I'm not even taking a new week opening gap into account here. Now this shift, lower high, they haven't taken these out yet. So I'm not gonna worry about it. Just hanging out around this old high. So this is what? Going into 11 o'clock lunchtime hour. Now, given the behavior, move my stop up a bit more. So far we've made higher highs, so I'm going to continue. Something to add in here. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ and the Dow. Something that I should have also checked before we did anything. Why is the NASDAQ, every time I add it to this thing, it doesn't come up? See what it's doing? All right, let's just drop the Dow for the moment. And just curious about the behavior. So at the same time, between here, 9:30, 10:30, flat, 9:30, 10:30, the Dow was making a higher high, and the Nasdaq finally did it too. Sorry, the S&P finally did it too. And let's continue this experiment. Let's press play. Okay, so now that this has broken this, I need to watch it, right? So that's at 275. Like, we've made these equal highs, we've broken these lows, and we left this. So I would just flatten here and be done with it, because I don't know. Because this is at what time? 11? So now we have new buy side up here. It hasn't taken out my stop loss, but... And let's look at it on the 5-minute. Ugh, gross choppiness. Okay, so what have we done? So they came into the breaker, they rolled up, and then let's see what happens on, yeah, so now this is a scenario where, let's look at the 15-minute. Like honestly, just leave it alone because this flat, we haven't done anything. But let's see. So we have a shift. Technically, we have a shift here. We have a shift, better one here. And it left this fair value gap, which they came back up into. Now, what I don't have is a breaker. Unless we consider it high, higher, high, shift down, in which case this bearish breaker would be here. Interesting. Gotta be flexible. So if there's a bearish breaker right here, and it's inside the fair value gap, then I'm probably gonna wanna try and get like midway through because that's my model. Do they give us like 20 ticks? Let's say 21 ticks. And my stop loss 8 ticks. Let's see. For that short. This is why I don't trust it too much. They're come back into this right here. Let's see. Yeah. So at most, they gave us 15 ticks. Now, I could be crazy and they could just be coming back in because that's still relatively equal highs. Where have they come back into on the 5 minutes? They tap anything useful? No fair value gaps. It's not leaving any signatures. Look at it on the 1 minute. So honestly, like they took this out. It could be just, reaching back up into here. But no. So that's as far as it went. But for folks who had trailed their stop losses onto here, we would have been stopped out on this run. Okay. So now we're into another chop into the lunch hour, 11:35. Okay. Okay. So now we have a shift. Let's go to the 1 minute. Into the lunch hour. So we've taken this out. To that. I'm not going to trade that. Let's fast forward to the next grouping of time. So I'm looking at, so it looks like, oops, would have gotten that 675 ticks right there. Patience. This roll back into this order block right here. Yeah. They gave us another opportunity when they did that. Hold on, the high of that is 4165.75, and the low of this candle 4165.75. Wow. So if we'd waited for them to come back into that, nice continuation. Done and dusted. Beautiful. Okay, so let's move this to the afternoon. So what time is it? 1:15. So now we're turning around on the 1:15. And let's see, what does that look like on the 1 minute? So we've had a significant shift here. And so we have a higher high shift. So we have these two down candles as breakers. Fair value gap right here. High, higher high. So let's see how they behave inside of that breaker. right? So I would not like to see them come back up here as a runaway gap. And there's this one right here, and it's inside of the breaker, no other order block. Let's say I were to take one more candle, so I want to sell. See how they behave around this one. My preference here, and I need to get this specific. My preference here is that, let's look at this in the 5 minutes, because maybe I am, sometimes when I'm zoomed in too closely, let's go back to 15. Sometimes I'm zoomed in too closely, I can't see the forest for the trees. Okay. So I took out these relative equal highs right there as well. 5 minutes. Took out these lows. So I need to also remember that when they do that, they've come back into this bullish order block right here. So let me note that. So we've been on an upward tear. And let's go to the 1 minute and see. So they tap this bullish order block. Ooh. On top of that, we have a volume imbalance that they ran away from. Let's see. And so let's see the behavior, because they can tap into this. I don't want them to stay up there. So I'm just gonna, all right, so it looks like they're coming to this order block. Okay, so let's see how they behave in here, because they've been on a bullish trend, but they took out this low here. Very strong shift here, but they've left these equal highs. What I don't know is if if they've hit an area of interest on the higher time frame. So 4181. Let's see, on the 50 minutes, is there like a rejection block or, wow, this is just gross, y'all, just gross. So I might be giving the game away, but, well, there's a rejection block right there. So we just note that on the 1 hour. We'll see how they behave around it. Actually, I can't use that one. So something I need to focus on, like when I'm not being, I mean, it's been very bullish, so why would I think they're gonna stop? But as we see, they keep going. But anyway, we're not in the window that I want to trade in anyway, and I'm gonna have to stop in a few minutes here. Let's get them to the window. All right, here's my window. So I use this for my notes. Wow, so they meandered about the rejection block a bit, and then they took out, what is that? Oh, the higher time frame rejection block. That's 12. Where can I see it? Hmm. Jeez. So they reached into that rejection block and the fair value gap that's up here. What time is this? 2 o'clock. Okay, let's take a last ditch effort. So they meandered about this rejection block. So delete that. And all right, the buy side liquidity, they took it out nicely. And now we're in this gross choppiness again, this fair value gap. So we're on a 5-minute. Just gonna let it play. So in my mind, this is a new rejection block right here. Let's see how they behave around it. Rejection block. Let's see if they take out something significant for me to do something with. This fair value gap. We're chopping around again. Personally, my preference would be for them to take out this low right here. So I'm just gonna wait. Chopping, chopping, chopping. Oh, let's see the consequent portion of this wick right here. Just gonna watch it on the 5-minute. I didn't have time to look at this yesterday, so sorry. Consequent encroachment of that wick, and then consequent encroachment of that wick is right there. It's staying inside of it. So, all right. So they've taken these lows out, and very with gusto. What time is it? 3:45. So drop down to the 1-minute and take a look at this. So once they took these lows out, I am potentially looking for something, but it's kind of late. Maybe I should have been waiting for this low to be taken out, which they did. They came back up into this fair value gap and then dropped. So all that chop, 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 chop. So technically that's the model, right? Sell side, buy side taken here. I made a, let's see, is it clear on the 3 minutes? Is it clear on the 5 minutes? How about the 2 minutes? Okay. So we had all this chop. Went higher. My preference was for them to take out this low, turn this into support. So what time is this? 3:52. So my preference would be to take a short from here. So that looks like, all right. So on a 5-minute, we have all of this gross chop. So I don't even know what an order block is. The lowest up close red candle spot here for the fair value gap right there. So that entry from there. Let's say we did this and then we plop this above that 8 ticks, and then what would we be aiming for? So we've got sell side down here for sure. And all the way down here. And it could just be reaching back down to this higher time frame PD arrays. So let's say that's, take it out, come back up into this. It's a shift. There's a volume imbalance right here. So like it taps it. So maybe I change, maybe my thoughts here. Let's see. So 1 minute, see how that plays out. Like I'd like an entry up there at the volume imbalance. And I don't know if they're gonna give it to us. Fair value gap here. Okay, so nice tap there. And oh, my sell side's all the way down here. Now I'm very well aware of what time is it. This is when I get my entry. Let's just press play and see what happens. Ugh. Stop. What time is it? 4:27. So at minimum, we got 20 ticks. So wherever 20 ticks is at is where I would just, right? So seeing as though it probably doesn't do any dropping until 6 o'clock in the Asian session. So given where I'm at, 20 ticks is all I could make off with. Anyway, it's been rough. Like these types of markets makes you feel like you can't trade. Straight up. Straight up. All right, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this one. Not too long. Happy hunting. Be safe. Drop a like, drop a comment. Shakira out.